asked Anil to do a short introduction, I didn't realize how risque that short introduction would be. Well done.
It's not me, it's the book.
Yes, I know. We'll get on to the proceedings because Sumit is also wanting to do a lot of reading from the book. Seated next to me is...
Just one point.
Yeah, sure.
Anil seems to be a little shocked by the book. And that, coming from the editor of Debonair, I find that very ironic. That's all.
Okay, so that's good repartee. As long as you guys don't kill each other, we'll be okay. Now, I said I'm going to do a very short introduction on Orna Sagib, who's landed just this morning. This morning, Orna? Yes, landed this morning. And Orna always has this amazing way of never looking jet-lagged. She's always cool, she's always calm, she's always composed, and she's sitting in between two of her very good friends. One thing is for sure, that Orna does not figure in the book at all, so you're safe, Orna. Orna, for those of you who don't know her, she's the Consul General of Israel, and she's now going to say a few words.
Good evening. I really feel honored to be seated here. Although I try to convince Sumit that I don't need to speak, but he's asking, so I'm speaking. And really knowing Sumit for almost 5 years, it's really my honor. And I felt really happy when he asked me to read, I think it was maybe the last draft or one of the last drafts of the book. So I read it before it was like this nice and organized. It was more on papers. So I was really honored. And I think that reading this book as a foreigner, I think I have maybe in a way a little bit of a different point of view than my colleagues here. And for me, it was, first of all, a very deep experience. Things that sometimes for us, even though I've been here for, I think, over 4 years, you see it in a very shallow way. You don't really dig inside. You don't ask yourself. Sometimes it's also easier for us not to ask those, difficult questions. And I have to say that reading the book, and I'll say a few words about the book itself, I really felt that, first of all, I'm learning, and sometimes I felt that I don't want to know. You know this feeling that you are reading something, you cannot stop, but you said, stop it, I really don't want to know anymore, because it was too painful, and you feel that there are things that you really don't want to touch. I was really fascinated by the depth, really, of the book, and the way I knew, because I asked Sumit, what is this book about? And he told me, it's about this officer and da-da-da. And I thought that the whole book is going to be about it. And then I realized that there are at least, what I found, at least 5 stories that are all coming together. So, and the way they are all getting into each other and they all touch each other, I felt that it was really amazing. So first of all, it's the story of the narrator, it's the story of Debashish, that in a way, I think that it's interesting the way the trauma that he went through as a young man actually influences his whole life. And he lives in India, but in a very different way. He's not he's not part of he's a loner. He doesn't get into the system, he doesn't get arranged marriage or love marriage. He chooses to be different. And I think because of that, this is why he can show compassion, he can be different, and he shows compassion to everyone. He shows compassion, the only one almost that shows compassion to his friend Vedant, and the one that shows compassion to the prostitute. But also I found it amazing that in a way he was very compassionate also to the governor. I mean, the way he treats the government, the way he speaks about the government, he actually shows compassion to him as well. So I found it really beautiful. Then the second, of course, and maybe that's the main story, the story of Vedant. And that was really, I think, a story of love and hate, and really how family, can influence your life in a way that you cannot resist, but you cannot even stop it. And the way, first of all, the relations between him and his wife, and the family of his wife, and the mother, and the whole story, and the way it all comes into this circle, and you have the feeling that it's kind of, from the beginning, it goes into one direction that no one can stop, and of course, the tragic end of that. Then I found, again, the deeper story about the whole Maoist, Naxalite movement. And of course, we all read about it in the newspapers, we all read about the two sides, but I think that when you read about the misery, you read also about the dilemmas of even the police officers. How do you deal with those issues? And at the end of the day, what are the consequences for both of the sides? I found it something that was really amazing for me. And of course, the fourth story is about Pinky, this sweet prostitute that goes through so much misery. And again, reading about something, you live in Mumbai, but then I asked Sumit, please take me to see this quarter. I've never been there. I want to see, is it still there? Is it true? Is it something that is gone already? Because you cannot believe the cruelty of the things that happens to such person, and still she's happy, she's lively, she's she keeps trying to find solutions for her life. And on top of that, the governor that tries to find solutions to this problem and try to end this problem of the pimps and the prostitutes, and how everyone else is looking at that very suspiciously, like, why is he doing that? Why does he even want to deal with that? And the way everyone actually treats him. And I think that there is one more story or one more level that I found fascinating, is the whole thing of spirituality. And when you live here in Mumbai and you live in India, of course, this is one part that you find you cannot ignore. But again, as a foreigner, there were parts of this spirituality that I could not even understand, that it was so deep, and the hallucinations were so, so intense that I really had to read it again and again and trying to understand what was the real meaning of that. So I think, just to wrap it up, I think that this book really cannot leave you indifferent. It's a strong book. It's a book that you cannot leave. It is something that you really want to see how it ends, although you have the sense all the time that it's not going to be a happy, Hollywoody end. So you know that it's not going to be a happy end, but in a way you can find people that you know inside the stories in your head, from your own country, I think, from here that you know. And I think that personally I really, really recommend each and every one of you to buy the book if you haven't done it so yet. But really to read it, and to read it slowly, and to try to understand. I mean, of course, I'm sure that I did not understand everything that Sumit tried to convey to us, but at least try to understand most of the messages, because it's really a fascinating book. So thank you, Sumit, and thank you.
Summaries that we are trying to put across to you is very interesting, because each one of us, having read the book to a certain extent, for example, me, I'm right in the middle, so I can't even tell you what the ending is, but Orna has already told us what the ending is, and Orna